I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be attraction, success versus failure. Well, I've got a good email here from a viewer, and you'll be able to see here when I get into it that he started out doing okay, but then he kind of started to go back to his old tendencies. And so it's interesting because you can really see how things just really go sideways very quickly, and it doesn't take a lot of screwing up to totally turn a woman off and ruin your chances with her. But before we get into it, I've got a quote that I'd like to share with you. And it says, in any relationship, you should always be aware of how much or how little the other person is contributing to the overall well-being of your relationship. Many times, in our effort to be loved and accepted, our fears can cause us to put up with or tolerate things that violate ourself or our dignity, because we are projecting our feelings or desires onto the other person and assuming they feel the same way. It's always better to pay attention to what others do instead of what they say. Actions always speak louder than words. So let's get into this guy's email. He says, "Hey Coach, to start out with, I'm a full-time student currently working on my undergraduate in nursing with plans to get my doctorate as a CRNA. I assume it's something to do with nursing." He says, "I keep myself in great shape, attractive and busy, considering I work and have to take year-round classes." Well, I remember the grind of being in college. I was working full-time for a construction company. I started out as an unpaid intern, and within about a month and a half, I got hired on full-time. And on top of that, I kept a bartending job on, I think it was like Saturday and Sunday nights. So the only night that I didn't have to work on the weekends was Friday night. And on top of that, I was taking 12 to 15 hours of classes every semester and had to find time to do my homework and work out and still try to have a little bit of a social life. So from the time I got up in the morning at 6:30 in the morning till the time I went to bed at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, I was full tilt boogie 7 days a week. Everything was planned out, and I usually would go out and party with my friends on Friday night to blow off some steam. Saturday morning, I was usually either taking a class in the morning or working on one of my architectural drafting classes. And I'll tell you what, when I finished college, I was so fucking glad to be done with that. I was able to quit my bartending job and just focus on my construction career. But man, it was a lot of work in my early 20s to get my degree when you're working full-time in the industry and stuff. So I feel for you. He says, "On to my situation. I'm normally a very confident, outgoing, and enthusiastic individual who has never had trouble getting women, and it's been nothing for me to juggle multiple women at once. But," he says, "in the past 6 months, I've decided that it was time for me to move away from that, and I'm trying to find the one." Well, I wrote an article a couple years ago called Single, Why You Should Never Get Hung Up on One Woman. And also, I think there was another one, The Myth of the One. Because I used to think like that when I was younger. You figure you get one perfect girl and that's going to make you happy. And at the end of the day, even when you get a woman that knocks your socks off, you're crazy about her, she's crazy about you. Once that infatuation wears off 6 months, a year into the relationship, if you were not happy when you got into the relationship, at the end of the day, you're still going to be faced with the fact that you're not really crazy about your life or your life circumstances. And that's why I place such a big emphasis on doing things that you love for a living, things that jazz you, that are exciting, that are emotionally compelling, because you're going to spend most of your time working. And it's your choice as to what career or path that you go into. And a lot of people just kind of dabble their way through life and get caught up or kind of stuck in the conveyor belt of life or a career doing something they're not really that excited about. And it's not until they get into their 40s or 50s and they realize, wow, I'm like halfway through this gig here of life and things really suck. That's why you've heard of midlife crisis. I've had a lot of friends that have gone through those. And I went through a major change in my mid-30s from what I originally thought I was supposed to do that led me obviously to what I'm doing today. And so when you don't want to be getting in your middle-age years, especially if you're younger, and realize that you spent the last 20 years doing something that other people told you should do, or society told you what you should do. Because at the end of the day, you got to be happy. Because it's physically not good for you to continue to do things that are not exciting and not compelling. It literally affects your physical well-being, and it affects your body at the cellular level. You can literally see how negative thoughts and doing a job that you hate, how it affects you when you look at your live living blood under dark field microscopy. It's really sobering to see that, and the effect that a stressful life has on your body. He says, needless to say, it hasn't been going all too well. I met a woman through a mutual friend and we hit it off pretty good. She did a bulk of the reaching out and it was seemingly working toward a long road track. Well, that tells me that you're focused on relationships, commitments, and things of that nature. And that's always a bad mindset, because you're always wondering when it's going to happen, when this girl's going to want to be in love with you or be exclusive in a relationship. And most guys start talking about that way too soon, before the woman feels an emotional bond and feels like she's emotionally ready to commit to be exclusive with you. And when you start talking about these things and focused on these things, especially if the woman doesn't react too positively to it, that puts you in like a flat spin, and then you get in a fearful state, and that clouds your thoughts, it clouds the things that you do, it affects the tone of your voice, it affects your body language, your physiology, and what you get focused on. So what happens is you get off track, and instead of being focused on just hanging out, having a good time, and hooking up, now you're all wrapped up in your head, and it creates awkward, weird moments, and she can tell that you're not completely 100% present with her when you're together, and it makes her feel not safe and not comfortable with you, and she'll start to back away. And the average guy, when that happens, they start to over pursue to compensate for that, figuring I got to do something to make her like me, and it's the worst thing that you can do. You end up literally just chasing her right out of your life. He says, but at some point I decided that I should, for some stupid reason, ask her if she was looking at this as building a relationship or a friendship. Talk about throwing a hand grenade into your relationship, dude. That's like the worst thing you could say. Because now you sound like an emotionally irrational and a woman that's unsure of herself, and you're a man. This is a bad way to go. Communicates you don't understand how attraction works, and it makes her start feeling fearful, like she's going to lose her freedom. He says, so she said she wanted a relationship, and I was extremely happy and content. At the end of the day, it's always better if you let the woman bring it up first. He says, in a few short weeks, my question, things began to derail. Because what happens is you think, oh great, we're boyfriend-girlfriend, and then you start acting and treating her like, in some ways, like she's your possession. It's a bad way to go. Because it's like you start ignoring the fact that she's not reciprocating things. You're not looking at her action, because you're like, hey, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, so we're boyfriend-girlfriend. But you got to understand, women are emotional beings, and their emotions fluctuate. And so what happens is you end up projecting your high level of attraction onto her and just completely ignoring the fact that she may be backing away, or maybe just some days she just doesn't want to hang out with you. She's got other things she wants to do. And you start thinking, hey, well, we're boyfriend-girlfriend. Why don't you want to hang out with me all the time? And then you get focused on it. Again, it puts you in a fearful state, and you literally will run her right out of your life without realizing it until it's too late. He says, she began to communicate much less, and I attempted to bridge the gap. So she starts backing away, and you start pursuing more. So when a woman backs away like that, you got to understand, you got to give her the space and time, because you spend a lot of time together. Maybe you go on a 3-day weekend, and then Monday she's kind of bored with you. And the average guy is thinking, hey, I don't understand this. And you literally start over pursuing her, and that causes her to back up even more. Because it's a scientific fact that women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. And now when you start acting this way, she starts realizing that you're more into this than she is. And it's only a matter of time before the let's just be friends speech gets thrown in your face. So he says, I attempted to bridge the gap to no good end, I might add. Big shock there. He says, it shortly turned into the dreaded, can we just be friends talk? That sucks, man. I've been there. I know what that's like. I experienced that most of my 20s, and it sucked. He says, feeling this, I began acting like a needy bitch, However, I can say that I have kissed her since then, and we've hung out multiple times, even after saying that I have no interest in just being friends, and she says that she is fine with me pursuing her. Of course she's going to say, women love attention like that. Now you're chasing after her, she puts you in friend zone, and she knows that if she ever needs an emotional tampon, if you will, that you'll be there for her. When a woman says that, she says she wants to be friends, just say, I'm not interested in that. I'd love to see you. Give me a call if you change your mind. So 2 or 3 days go by, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, whatever it happens to be. She reaches out to you. You should assume, oh, she must want to see me, because women are like cats. They get bored and they run away. And then when they run away and they realize you're not chasing after them, they go, hey, what happened to that Corey guy? Let me give him a call. Hey, babe, how are you? Oh, I've been thinking about you too. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? Make a date to hang out, have fun, and hook up. You just go right back to that. Hang out, have fun, hook up. You've pursued too much, she backs off. Wait for her to come back to you. When she does come back, she reaches out, she calls. Get right to the point. Make a date. Don't beat around the bush. Don't feel like you got to talk on the phone for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes or have 3 or 4 phone conversations before you ask her out. Men who are successful are direct and they get right to the fucking point. Make the date happen. That's what they want you to do, is to be the leader in that particular. They want you to be the leader all the time. And so when she reaches out, if you assume, well, of course she wants me because, hey, I'm awesome. You should always think like that. And make a date. If she reaches out, if she's calling you, if she's texting you, it's because she wants to see you. Make that happen in as few steps as possible. He says, this sort of dynamic we have is driving me crazy. Yeah, because you're pursuing and you're getting nowhere. You're like spinning your wheels. He says, I see her at work and she is flirting with me 1 second and then next it's like I don't exist because you're pursuing. You act like you have no value in her eyes. It's like the analogy I've made before of like a Babe Ruth card from 100 years, baseball card from 100 years ago was worth a lot of money versus a Pete Rose card that he signed tens of thousands of cards with his name on it. They're really not worth the paper that they're printed on because there's a lot of them. And so in essence, you're acting like a guy who has no value, who's sitting around waiting for her to come back instead of just moving on with your life and being indifferent or being friendly, being nice to her when you see her, but you don't go out of your way. You're just like, hey, great chatting with you. I got to get back to work. Give me a call this weekend if you get into anything cool. And if she ever calls you, assume she wants to see you. Make a date happen in as few steps as possible. He says, she returns my text regularly but seldom initiate contact. That's because you're pursuing too much. Anytime the guy does any more than 30% of the pursuing, calling, texting, it's too much. So it's flipped. You're acting like the woman and she's acting like the man. And women don't want the power, and you've given her all of the power at this point. He says, I feel like I'm in some shitty cycle that has me drained emotionally and of sleep. Yeah, because you're up all night worrying about this. You got to grow a set of balls and wait for her to contact you, dude. This pursuing is getting you nowhere. Look how it's making you feel. It makes you feel like shit. It's like a fucking black hole that just sucks all the life out of you. He says, it seems to me if there's any hope of this working, I either need to back away and see what she does, or if I can manipulate something like I've done before. No. Back away, see what she does. Get busy meeting other women, going out on dates with other women. And if she calls you, assume she must want to see me. Make a date happen in as few steps as possible. Hang out, have fun, hook up. Don't ever bring up the topic of being exclusive or getting back together or any of that bullshit. Until she's emotionally ready, she's not going to bring it up. Hang out, have fun, hook up. Rinse, recycle, repeat. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, eventually she's just not going to want to talk to you at all, and then you're going to see her in a relationship with some other dude, and then you're going to really be heartbroken at that point, and that's going to suck even more than it sucks now. So that's what I would do if I were you. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session. You can do that by going to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.